Hello, hello. And your attention. We're going to go ahead and start this show. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Good to see so many people out on such a beautiful Saturday afternoon in the Hilltop. We haven't had a day like this in a long time. I think it might mean something. Thanks for all of you for coming out. It is really rewarding to see how many people are here. I guess that shows your concern for the state of the country right now. Hopefully it demonstrates your commitment to help bring some change to the 15th district. First, let me just ask, since we're here in the Hilltop in Columbus, are there people here? I've heard there's some folks from some of the outer counties. If you look at your map, this district goes way out there. Clark County, Springfield. Yeah. Also Springfield. We're expecting a lot out of Springfield this time around. Got some issues over there that should have addressed. But my name is Jim Villers. The Alliance for the 15th put this little event together. That's just a few people who were concerned, constituents. I reached out to my friend Jean Wenzel, who is here on that table back there. Wave, Jean. She and her husband Roy have been active in Democratic campaigns up in Northwest Columbus for years. Last year they moved downtown. I live downtown. Jean was distraught after the November election outcome with Harris and with issue 1. She said, I'm not doing any of this organizing anymore. And I said, Jean, you know you just moved into the 15th district. You're not out there in Joyce Beatty's district anymore. We're taking it easy. So we got to do something. Mike Carey's not listening to us. We got to let Mike Carey know he's not going to get an easy ride this time around. He linked us up with Mary Minot, who's back in the back, who's back to Mary was already very active in what's happening in the 15th district, and she has been an incredible help through the Indivisible of Central Ohio. She's on their board. They helped get the message out. Thank you for all of that. Mary brought in Kelly Becker and Becky Schlister. I got that right. I asked one of our neighbors here downtown, John Indivisible, to help out, and he's over here with the camera. And I can't forget my wife, Diane, in the front row, she'll be kind of speakers. Diane and I discussed the situation in the 15th when we started talking about doing something to make us feel like we're home. And we have very dear Dublin, Mike and Lisa Basin. They are lifetime Republicans, not MAGA Republicans. They are reasonable Republicans. Do you remember those? So Mike and Lisa, Diane, and I signed a letter inviting Mike Carey to come to this event, a bipartisan event. We asked him to come talk to his constituents. We sent 3 certified mail. We appealed to him on his website. Absolutely no response. No reply at all. We know the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, has told his Republican members, don't take Townhall. Don't engage with your constituents who elected you. It's ridiculous. And so he didn't show up. We've got a chair for him if he happens to walk in the door. But we need a representative who will stand up to Donald Trump when he violates the rights of citizens and non-citizens alike. They also have rights. When the president tries to circumvent or even destroy a constitution that he and Mike Carey were sworn to uphold, it's time to call them out. And we're going to call them out. Ohio's known, it's 3 cities, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati. The 3 C's. I will date myself. Before I-71, there was a 3C highway connected them. I was reminded of that the other day when I was reading an article by Rahm Emanuel, who's defining this Congress as the 3 C's. Corruption, chaos, and cruelty. Corruption, crypto criminals, get the highest bidder to go dine with the president. He takes gifts from foreign governments. They're building Trump golf courses and buildings in Vietnam and other places in the world. He gives pardons to his mega donors, criminals who should still be in jail. Chaos, tariffs, for God's sake. On and off negotiations, bullying our allies. He's got attacks on the universities, hundreds of lawsuits, and now attacks on the justices that he appointed. Cruelty, the most cruel thing that our representative has done is vote yes for the House resolution for the budget for the next 2 years. That is that one big bullshit bill that they passed. It's tax breaks for the rich, cuts for the poor. It's an exact transfer of wealth, $1.1 trillion in tax breaks for people who earn over $500,000 a year, and $1.1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid and SNAP, services for the poor. And those hospitals in rural Ohio may feel the brunt of this. It could be very, very desperate. I could go on for a long time. I don't want to take up the afternoon because we've invited 4, 5 now, special panelists and a special guest who are very well informed and very engaged, and they're going to share their insights and take questions from you, the voters of the 15th district. First, a surprise guest today I didn't know about is Mary Jo Kilroy. I grew up here, we left, we came back during the time that Mary Jo was the last Democrat to represent the 15th district. I did not know her or know of her much, but congratulations for that. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. It's really wonderful to see people coming together and standing up for what you believe in. And I really appreciate all of you being here this afternoon. And I don't know how many of you may have thought about running for office yourself, whether it is a township trustee, a state senator, a state rep, city council, or a member of Congress. But I encourage you to do it, to have the courage to stand up there before the voters and say, I have something to offer you. I want to represent you. I can relate to the needs of this community, and I want to help make all of us grow stronger and better. It takes some guts to do it, but I think it's very worthwhile to do it. I first ran for Columbus Board of Education and served for 2 terms there, ran for county commissioner and served for 8 years as county commissioner. And all of those offices were extremely rewarding. And I think that we were able to accomplish a great deal to help children be educated well and to understand that we live in a multicultural world in the county, to begin to work on healthcare access for county residents, for housing. And in Congress, there's all kinds of issues that are very important that come flowing past your desk. They say like a fire hose. Since we're quoting Rahm Emanuel today, let me quote Rahm as well. Rahm told me that the essence to a congressional campaign, and I think it applies to any campaign that you want to run, is money, message, and momentum. Well, the money part is hard. It is drudgery. It's hours on the phone, calling people up and asking for money. It's hard to do that, and especially I think sometimes it's hard for women to do that. I would always tell myself, you're not doing it to enrich yourself. You're doing it to raise money so that you can fight for health care. You can fight for housing. You can fight against the big banks who at that time had thrown our economy into a downspin. Money, momentum. Do we have momentum now? Yes, I think we do have momentum now. It's not working here.
Money, momentum, and microphones.
No,
Okay. people are fed up. They are fed up with what Trump, Vance, and Musk have been doing to our country. People in the world are attacking and taking from the poorest countries and the poorest people in the world. They are attacking our democracy, and they are trying to shred our Constitution. They are cruel, as you said, Jim. They are cruel. So I think as more and more people come to understand what is going on in Washington, I think that momentum will continue to grow. And this is a year, the next congressional year will be a good year, whether you're running for Congress or you're running for the State House. Message. What kind of message should we have? You know, they talk a lot about how Trump attracted working class voters, how Trump had a populist message. I think that Democrats have a better message. We can have a stronger message. We can talk to people about health care, which is still far too expensive and leaves too many out of the system. There's an answer to that, and it's called Medicare for all. We can talk about the federal budget. They want to talk about cutting the budget and cutting the deficit. There's things that can be cut, certainly. Like the bloated military budget that includes weapon systems that the Pentagon doesn't even want, doesn't even ask for. And we could talk about pocketbook issues. You know, the minimum wage has not been raised since 2008. Many people in our community, many people in the 15th district rely on the minimum wage. And I think we, as our message as Democrats, needs to be that we will fight to raise the minimum wage. We will fight for 15. We will fight for all of you. And in the meantime, we will also be taxing those millionaires and billionaires who have taken control. It's time to end the oligarchy and return power to the people. Thank you.
Rick Neal was a stay-at-home dad, a political activist. He served in the Peace Corps as a volunteer and ran public health programs for refugees in Asia and Africa from 1988 to 2004, before settling down in Columbus with his husband Tom to raise their 2 daughters. He and Tom have been active in the fight for LGBTQ rights and in the fight against Trump and MAGA. Rick ran for Congress in the 15th District in 2018 and worked to elect Joe Biden in 2020. He organizes the weekly protests at the Columbus Tesla dealership. He's exploring ways to be most effective in the fight for our freedoms. Rick?
Right. Thank you, Jim. All right, I got my props. Ready? No Peace in America! No Peace in America! No Peace in America! Peace in America! Right. Bullshit. These people are trying to do. And I'm so excited and I'm so glad that you all invited me to come out here today. I'm so fired up and I am so pumped to be here. What we just heard from Congresswoman Kilroy is what it's like to have somebody real representing us. Thank you, Congresswoman. Thank you. That's what we're going to have again. That's what we're going to have again. Sadly, I do not live any longer in the 15th District, or I might give Representative Miller a run for his money. But we can all do our part, and that's why I'm here today. This is just fantastic to be out here, and I do have some things that I want to cover, but I do want to say how important it is in this terrible time, and it's going to get worse, that we keep coming together and that we keep meeting each other. I see old friends, I see people I've never met, folks from Clark County. How about that? Thank you very much. Right? And I had to bring my props and my sign today too, because at about a little bit before o'clock, I got to dash out of here and go up to Tesla at Easton, because every Saturday at 4:30 p.m., we are out at the Easton Tesla giving Elon Musk hell. And even though he's gone off and like skulked away with his tail between his legs and he's done, he is not done. He is not done screwing with us. Doge is still in place, destroying our government,
Right.
not his. Can we hear that, right? Government of, by, and for the people, for us. Not government of Trump and by Musk and for the oligarchs. Our government. Doge is not done with us. Musk is not done with us. And think about the unbelievable technological disruption and change that is coming down the pipe with artificial intelligence. And you know who is all over that is Elon Musk. And does he have our interest in mind? No! All right. So I'll be out there. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about what we are not getting in this district with this faithless and feckless and cowardly congressperson, Mike Carey, who does not deserve the title of congressman because he is not representing us. There's two things I want to talk about that are near and dear to my heart as a humanitarian and as a public health guy. On the humanitarian side, you know, after college, I got called to service into the U.S. Peace Corps. My beloved Peace Corps. Hundreds of thousands of Americans have served the Peace Corps all over the world. And I gotta tell you, I don't think this got a lot of news. For the first time, I saw that they had canceled classes of volunteers to head out to Cameroon and to one other country, right? So it's coming. Even our Peace Corps, even one of the greatest symbols of American generosity and heart and spirit is in their sights. But that is part of something larger. What the heck are they doing to American standing and American leadership across the world? They are destroying it, and Mike Carey is complicit in that. Right off the bat, gutting USAID, shutting down aid programs. How many of my friends, especially in Washington, D.C., but also overseas, a good friend in Kazakhstan, of all places, who has served with his family in Nairobi and in Cambodia, where I used to live, and has been told September, they're going home. He's done. All that expertise and how to help people on environmental and other programs, all that goodwill shut down. And the question is why? What are they doing, right, with these cuts? What is Carey complicit in? Is it part of some amazing grand strategy? No, it's just garbage. It's just an expression of power on Trump's part to take our most sacred values, our most important programs and things that are important to us as Americans and say, you don't think I can get rid of it? Watch. Just because he's a jerk, just because he wants to feel like the big guy, and he wants to show that even that he can tear apart. That's it. That's what Mike Carey is complicit in. Nothing strategic, nothing beneficial to the U.S., just sucking up to Trump's ego and power grab.
Yes.
The other thing, though, is about Medicaid. And I see the 30 seconds. Let me just talk real quick. And Leader Russo, who is on her way, is much better placed, I think, to talk about the impact of the destruction of Medicaid in this state and what it's going to mean to this district. But I do have some things. You know, Jim referenced the budget bill, or maybe it was Congressman Kilroy. And you know, this bill is set to take effect on October 1st. Like it's coming up, right? And the version that was passed by the House, what I've read is that it reduces Medicaid spending by $625 billion. Now, how many people is that going to hurt? Well, there are 770,000 Ohioans who depend on Medicaid expansion that we got by hook or by crook when in 2010-ish, right? Shortly after Kasich came in and we got Medicaid expansion as part of Obamacare. And as I understand it, if I'm not mistaken, under the current state budget bill that's being debated, if the federal government goes below its 90% commitment of paying for Medicaid expansion in Ohio, Ohio stops Medicaid expansion automatically, like an automatic trigger. That's what these that's what these Ohio Republicans in the State House want to do, and then that's tied to the MAGA extremism and BS that's going on in the federal budget bill. Complicit, cowardly, no leadership, no one to stand up for us in Washington. And why? Remember for USAID and for the foreign assistance, it's just about Trump's power grab, right? Petty vengeance. Elon Musk poking him and saying, hey, you gotta stand up for the white apartheid regime in South Africa. Right. But the Medicaid cuts is about what? It's about tax cuts for the wealthiest and most powerful. Again, the smallest thing, the most venal and greedy thing manageable to rip healthcare away from hundreds of thousands of Ohioans, from 25,000 people in District 15 who rely on Medicaid. Mike Carey is fine with leaving them on their own so that a few really, really rich people can hoard their wealth a little bit more. So this is the kind of fight that we've got in front of us, right? This is what we're waiting for the true patriot, all of us, patriots and fighters, to come along and say, Carey, get out. Cancel Carey, because we don't need him, we don't need what he's not offering us. He's not offering us anything. We need real fighters and real patriots in there who are going to fight for us and fight for America and fight for this district. Thank you very much.
Thanks for what you're doing on our region and Tessa.
Okay.
Fired up.
Ready to go.
Our next speaker, Joel Newby. Joel was the 2020 Democratic candidate for District 15. Prior to running for office, Joel graduated from Ohio University and Capital University Law School, now manages his own law firm, the Newby Law Office, and lives in Grove City with his wife Corey and children Eleanor and Cooper. Joel's policy interests include rural broadband internet, children too, efficient markets, universal health care. Since running for office, Joel's helped several local candidates win elections by using a turf-cutting data organizing program, Hubble, developed during his 2020 campaign. Joel, thanks for coming.
Honestly, going after Rick is dreadful, but we'll go with it. I'm up here today, and I'm going to focus on some rural issues with you guys, because I grew up in middle of nowhere, Pickaway County. If I told you where I grew up, I would have to use like the 3 closest intersections to get there, okay? So out there, still to this day, we do not have enough broadband internet. Even though we passed a law in order to get broadband internet out there, we have so many obstacles in our way, and one of them is our state, but let's bypass that and let's talk about why there isn't a congressman standing in here right now that says, hey, we've already got this bill passed, let's shove it through and make sure that we have broadband internet. The bill's done. Now we need somebody to help execute. He's not going to Trump and saying, hey, we have a bill, let's get my guy some internet. No. He is, I don't know if you've heard some of the commercials, he's worried about SALT deductions, which only really benefits rich people. And so he doesn't give a care about the people where I'm from. And this is why this is important though. When 2020 hit, and I'm sorry, I have to take everybody back to the dark ages, I apologize in advance. The difficulty in my race automatically became, how do I communicate if I can't go physically touch somebody's hand? Because I don't have the ability to just post on Facebook and get my message out. And back then it was Vinton County or Hocking County. Those locations where I really needed to change people's minds, they did not have the internet access to have Facebook, Twitter, whatever it took to get my message out. So I was already hamstringed. I felt, now, if you look back at my campaign videos, you really don't see very much of this because I, projected that I could win against, the Hulk at that point because that's what I wanted to project. But as soon as like that reality sat in May and June, it was really hard to think about how we go about winning an election in a district that is now very similarly situated where it's very expansive. You have to reach out to rural people who don't have internet connections because this guy will go to Trump and say we passed a bill and we need to get some internet. So what do? So today, I think we all need to be honest with ourselves and start saying, we need to start organizing right now. Everybody in here is a leader. And as a leader, I'm holding you to this. I expect everybody in here to go find 10 people and go knock some doors when it comes time. That's what I want from you guys. How many phone calls are you guys gonna make? How many emails are you gonna send to people, okay? We need to get in our cars and go out to these places where they don't typically see Democratic door knockers. Let me tell you this. I knocked some doors in some very hilly dirt road places in 2020. I left something on the doorstep. I stepped back, they came out, and they would have a conversation with me, and they say, I never get to see Democrats. Never get to see Democrats. You know how we win this district? We stop letting people say, I never see Democrats. We just go. We go. For myself, we have to overcome the challenges of what type of district we have. We have a very rural district in some places. We have the grace that, Franklin County is a place where we can use the internet and get around. But we have to overcome the challenges that this is a rural district. And the way that I want to do it is I reached out to my guy today and I told him I'm in Grove City. You want a door knocker in Grove City, you got one right here. You guys need to do the same. You guys are leaders. You decided to show up. Let's lead. You are the leaders, and we can really win this district. One final thing. If you guys have been following the special elections and how much Democrats are picking up over Republicans, even in deep red Republican districts, those deficits that we're making up in those districts are bigger than what we lost here in this district. You know what that means? This is a winnable district. There's no way that this coward should ever be in office ever again. Thank you guys, I appreciate you guys taking the time to go. Let's go knock some doors.
Thank you, Joel. Great message. We definitely need to connect with all the voters out there, not just the ones that are on our deep blue team. With the numbers, they just don't work unless we get engaged with the undecideds, the undeclareds, and show them that this guy is not representing them. Next speaker, Colonel Adam Miller, former representative, a fourth generation West Side Columbus Hilltop native. Welcome home. Four-term Ohio State Representative, Army veteran, and JAG Corps officer. Retired Colonel Miller was the Democratic nominee for Congress in the 15th District in 2024, not so long ago. In the Army Reserve, he's held command of the company, battalion, brigade, and division level, earning multiple declarations for his military service. A combat vet who served 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan, Colonel Miller is the first judge advocate branch officer selected to lead logistics and combat engineer brigade. Prior to brigade command, Colonel Miller served as a senior reserve legal advisor to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the Department of Defense and the Pentagon, General Mark Milley, during the January 6th riots, the insurrection. In 2010, Colonel Adam Miller co-founded Operation Legal Help Ohio, a statewide pro bono program to provide free legal support to Ohio veterans. And as a state legislator, Representative Miller served as the ranking member on the Veterans Affairs Committee. He's the primary sponsor of House Bill 29, which established the Ohio Veterans Fund. A former K-12 public school educator and coach, he does it all. He practices education law at Keebler Brown, married to Helen, an Ohio EPA environmental scientist. They just celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary.
Hilltop, boy, it's good to be back. Real good to be back. I'm going to address our absent friend, Mike. Mike, you are the worst congressman for veterans and service members we've ever had in this district. Mike called me a couple weeks ago. Mike said, you're being way too tough on me in town halls. Why are you killing me, Adam? I'm killing you because you're not standing up for our district. That's why. You're not doing your job. You don't understand. I have to have these hard votes. It's so hard. And when Jim Jordan says, I gotta vote this way, I gotta vote, I said, Mike, it's not that tough. Support veterans, support Ohioans. Right. Vote your district that elected you. So, three things. Why do I think Carey is a catastrophe for veterans? Here's why. He underfunded the VA to the extent that he didn't support a resolution that would have extended funding for all of the outpatient procedures. When I went to an event at Dayton VA, everybody said, well, you're running against that guy, cancel my appointment. You're gonna win. We don't like him very much. You can't say that you're a veteran and you're gonna support the VA when you cut VA services and VA programs. That's number one. Number two, he's underfunded the PACT Act. Protection Against Comprehensive Toxics. It's maybe one of the most significant military pieces of legislation we've ever passed. Sherrod Brown and a Republican in the Senate got that done in a bipartisan way after literally 20 years, and it creates a presumption of eligibility based on your service in an area. So instead of filing a mountain of forms and then proving with literally a Photoshop that you were in this place, you have presumptive eligibility because you wore the uniform, because you served in a certain theater of operations. The impact on that is so positive for all of our service members. And for those of us who are in uniform, it says, when I enlist, I'm going to receive the benefits that I signed up for. And that is so important. When you raise your right hand and you make that commitment, you know that they've got your back. And 30 years from now, 60 years from now, when I'm on the other side and I'm a veteran, I'm going to receive what I was promised. Carey has broken that promise to America's veterans. He must be fired. Two more things. And I want to give my friend a chance to drink a little water, because I know she's been busy today. Two more things. The VA canceled the homeless mortgage program for veterans May 1st. 5 consumer groups, mortgage lenders, the Chamber of Commerce, ACLU, people you don't usually see on the same side of the table testifying in Congress said, you can't get rid of the VA mortgage protection program that protects hundreds of thousands of veterans without a replacement. And they looked at people like Carey, and what did they get? Crickets. Nothing. So a lot of us said, we got to do something. Last weekend, some of us put our rucks on, and maybe you saw it. We started at the Hilltop Y, and we did a 30K ruck march for veterans and for homeless vets to raise awareness. And we are going to fight for homeless veterans. Yeah. I want to say thank you. If we have anybody here from Lily Chapel, thank you for offering me the ride for the last 2 miles. I said no. We went from near the State House all the way to West Jeff. It was long. I was tired at Lily Chapel, I will admit that. But it was great because we got awareness of what's happening. Here's the last thing. I got a call from the personnel command, a person, I'm not going to say their name, but because of all the cuts to the VA and all the DOD cuts, Trump has cut all of the civilian employees. So there's no one running the units the way there used to be and should be. So nobody is doing all the medical appointments, the wellness. They cut the wellness that used to be in every brigade. And this person was saying, please, if you have a chance to run, because there's suicide ideation is through the roof. It's unbelievable. We lost 6 people in this command. It's killing our veterans. It's killing our service members. We need a change in Congress. Thank you for coming and being part of a movement to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Adam hustled here. Thanks for getting here. If you look at the little maps that's on your Carey Facts handout, you go west from here and then turn north. Way up at the very top of the district is Sydney, Ohio. He was out in Sydney this morning. How are they feeling out
We
there?
had 125 farmers and veterans in Sydney, Ohio this morning.
Whoa! We've been talking about taking this show on the road. They may be ahead of us. Uh-oh. We got work to do, folks. We are definitely honored to hear the next guest, Representative Leader Allison Russo. State Representative Russo is currently serving her 4th term in the Ohio House of Representatives. She probably needs no introduction to anybody in this room. But that district includes Upper Arlington, Grandview Heights, parts of Columbus. She's the minority leader in the House Democratic Caucus, a position she's held since January 22. Prior to joining the legislature, Leader Russo spent more than 2 decades advising government leaders and policymakers on issues related to healthcare financing and the delivery of needs for seniors, vulnerable populations, veterans, and military families. Leader Russo is also a passionate advocate for women, families, and is involved in many local civic and service organizations in the community. Minority Leader Russo holds a doctoral degree in health policy from the George Washington University and master's in public health epidemiology from the University of Alabama at Birmingham. She lives in Upper Arlington with her husband and their 3 children. Allison, thank you so much.
Let me untable myself here. There we go. All right. Well, wow. It's so great to be here. I'm so glad that I was able to make it. I was down in Jackson County this morning. And some of the things that I am going to, thank you, that I am going to talk to you a little bit about, some of the same things I was sharing with many of our fellow Ohioans down in a very rural community, and we were down in Jackson, Ohio, talking to them specifically about what's going on, not only here in the state of Ohio, because we're in the middle of the state operating budget process, but also what we see coming out of Congress, and just the complete disconnect on many essential services that are facing funding cuts or being underfunded, and how they impact many of our communities across Ohio, particularly in rural Ohio, and making those connections. Because listen, I will be the first to tell you that as Democrats, 90% of this is we have to show up, and we have to show up everywhere, and making these connections and talking about how, whether it's Mike Carey in Congress, or it's Shane Wilkin in the Ohio Senate, or whomever else, they are voting against their own constituents, and these have very real life impacts on people. I know I wasn't supposed to talk about this, but you can't give me the mic and me not talk about this right now, and that is, in the State House, we see many of the Republicans that are in the supermajority right now, they are taking a page out of the Republican playbook that is happening in Washington, D.C. And one of the places that they're starting is with public education, and just the full frontal attack on public education. We see this in underfunding our schools, sending our public dollars to these voucher programs that are unaccountable. And in many communities, I talked about that this morning, our public schools, where 90% of Ohio's children attend, they are the centers of community. They are the centers of community identity. They are often the largest employer in those communities. And to not resource them, provide them the resources they need to educate our children is unacceptable. And this will have, thank you, you can clap for that. And this will have devastating impacts on Ohio's children, and really what we set up as the future here in the state of Ohio. And one of the things that I talk about is when the state does not step up and do its part, it's our local communities who have to fill in the gap. And that often translates to all of you, meaning that you will have more levies on your ballot, you'll have higher property taxes, and that is unsustainable, and it's not right. And the other place that we see this as well in the state budget, that it's a direct reflection of what we're seeing in Congress and people like Mike Carey voting against their own constituents, and that is in the space of Medicaid funding. What we see coming out of this proposed bill that came out of the House, which Carey voted for, in fact, every Republican member in Ohio, except for one person, voted for this bill that came out of the House in Congress, defunds Medicaid to the tune of $2.5 billion just here in the state of Ohio. And puts at risk 480,000 Ohioans in not having health insurance. And that's just what Congress did. What we see in the State House budget is they actually have provision, trigger language provision, that would put at risk the Medicaid expansion program, and overnight, depending on what Congress does and how the funding happens, we could lose close to 800,000 coverage for 800,000 Ohioans. Now, what does this mean for real? You're going to hear from Justin, and I'm so glad, Justin, you were able to come today to talk about the very real implications of what that means for some of our most vulnerable Ohioans. But let me tell you about what it means for everybody else, because this is the other conversation I am having with folks. People say, why does it matter? Why do Medicaid cuts matter to me? Because I don't have Medicaid coverage. Well, if you were, every single county in this state has providers, whether they are mental health and addiction care providers, maybe obstetrical service providers, access to emergency rooms, etc. They keep their doors open because of Medicaid funding. And if they don't have that, that is uncompensated care. And you know what happens when you have uncompensated care? Providers, hospitals, emergency rooms have to close their doors, and that impacts every single one of us. So when we have people like Mike Carey in Congress who are voting against the health, against their very own constituents, that is wrong. They should be replaced. They should answer to those votes, because they are accountable to all of you, to the voters, not to their party, not to a guy who sits in the White House. They are accountable to all of you, and you should demand that accountability. You should answer for those votes, and you sure as heck should answer to his constituents like Justin, and you're going to hear his story in just a few minutes. I thank you for being here. I thank you for your energy. Keep working. You know, this district, when I ran for it in a special election back in 2021, which seems like a lifetime ago, it was a totally different district. It has become even more winnable since then in the redraw. And in a cycle like what we will see in 2026, it's obtainable. Right. But that means that all of you have to keep, keep beating the drum, keep working for candidates, and keep showing up at places like this and talking, most importantly, talking to your neighbors, your family members, and making them understand what these votes mean for everyday people and how it impacts their lives, and not let people get distracted by everything else that the Republicans want to distract you with that don't mean a damn thing to how they can put food on their table, where they're sending their kids to school, and the health care that they get in their communities. So thank you very much.
Are you able to put that on the mic stand so I can stand?
Yep.
You got a few handers that you're
Here, I'll hold it for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I get to introduce you.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, here, I'm gonna hold it for you, Justin. All right, so I am so pleased. Let me tell you, I was at a town hall last month, right? For Representative Christine Cockley, who represents this area here. Yes, give her a hand, she's fantastic. She's a new member of the General Assembly. And I was helping her with the town hall, and Justin was there, and he was asking some great questions about Medicaid and sharing his own story. So Justin Martin is a teacher, he's a writer, he's a curriculum designer from Hilliard, Ohio. He's a graduate of both, Hilliard people here. From Kenyon College and Vanderbilt University. He was born with an acute case of both cerebral palsy and human dignity, I love that part. And he makes political speeches only when Republicans threaten the programs which allow him to dress, shower, eat, and leave home, meaning he's done it yearly since the age of 8. And in America that kept its promises, he'd be watching Cheers and running tabletop games in his own accessible condo. But he's here today with us instead, and he has such a fantastic voice. He's such a great advocate. And Justin, thank you for being here today. So I'm going to hold this for you.
The Golden Gate Bridge is held up by a series of steel cables. Human beings are held together differently. Every day, we make millions of little promises to one another, and we keep them. On your way to work, every driver promises to stay on the right side of the road. Your child's teacher promises to make sure they can read. Food inspectors promise to keep glass out of your hamburger meat. Most of us find it so natural to continue in this way that most of us don't even think about these promises, which quietly weave through our lives in the background. But there's one promise that I've thought about every day of my life. My name is Justin Martin, and 60 years ago next month, my country promised me that I would not have to die in shame, isolation, rage, and filth for no other reason than being born 3 months prematurely. My country promised me that it didn't matter that my legs didn't work, that I needed aides to shower and dress me, a ceiling lift to get me out of bed, an accessible van to get to work or to go to a bar. My country promised me a life, and it didn't ask about the price tag. You just heard my bio. You know what I've managed to do with that promise. You know what I want to do with that promise. Make the condo that'll buy with my own savings, wheelchair accessible. Be able, for the first time in 6 years, to get a cup of coffee when I want to. Meet people, write books. But it feels insulting to list these things as if our lives are fractions. Contribution divided by cost. A pilot doesn't keep her promise because she thinks her passengers are brilliant. A father loves his children even when they're unexceptionable, unkind, or sick. We never do the math because we love each other. We keep our promises simply because they are promises. And because we know that when one person keeps his promise, it's that much easier for the next person to keep hers. There's a word for this collection of kept promises. It's called a country. We all understand this. Of course, there are people who are paid to lie to you about what we all understand. They call themselves Republicans. Like our former governor, Mr. Kasich, they'll talk about waste, fraud, and abuse, and then only be able to show you 6 people that abuse the care provider system. Like Mr. Musk, they'll let unelected coders fresh out of college access your Medicaid data to find fraud while waving around chainsaws on stage as they laugh about ending your freedom. Like Representative Carey, they'll vote in the dead of night for billions of dollars in cuts to the program that makes your life possible and refuse to return your dozens of calls about it, eventually coughing out some kind of form letter with the same excuses that you've heard all your life. Years before our government promised disabled people a life, Ronald Reagan was releasing vinyl records calling a social safety net socialism. Yesterday, Senator Ernst pointed out that, quote, we're all going to die, for heaven's sake, end quote. So why not cut Medicaid? I agree with Walt Whitman when he says that the meaning of life is that the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. I have so many verses to contribute, so many promises that I want to keep to my community, to my family, to my friends. But I'm being cared for by 2 parents who are approaching 65. Time is running out to make my leap. And at this 11th hour, Representative Carey, President Trump, and the Republican Party play these inhumane games with all of us. They do this because they're making a wager. They bet that if they break a promise with someone who looks like me, you won't mind, and you won't think that you're next. They bet that you'll see gutting Medicaid as balancing a budget or tightening a belt instead of seeing it for what it is, breaking a promise as brutally as when a parent abandons their children, a pilot pushes a plane into a nosedive, or a gunman opens fire in a crowded theater, not caring who it is he hits. Thank you.
organizers, you've got to let Justin speak. He's just such an incredible advocate. Thank you, Justin, for sharing your story and being here.
Very powerful message from Justin. Thank you. You said it takes a country, it takes a community, and I pledge, I think, everyone in this room that we will fight as a community for you, with you, and make something happen to get this man pay attention to you. Now we're going to open it up to the voters of the 15th district. We have time for questions, and we have 4 or 5 people here to give you answers. If you hold your hand up, Kelly's going to come around with a microphone. I'll pass this among the panelists, and I see a hand up already in the back. Please try to keep your questions short. We don't have a lot of time. You can direct it to any one individual on the panel if you like, and if others on the panel have pertinent, relevant, additional information, feel free to grab the mic and chime in. We're going to use the corded mic. You want to do it from here, or it might be easier?
And Jim, I'm just going to excuse myself. Like
Rick's
I said,
headed east.
I wish I could say this is absolutely fantastic, Justin. Thank you. And thanks to all of you. All right, I'll see you on
I'm David Weaver from Command Winchester. Before you leave, I want you to hear that it's my opinion that the Democratic Party for decades has not solved the problems of people. That's why the people are so angry and despairing that they voted for Trump. They got problems, specific problems. I'm not seeing enough solutions. I don't know what the answer is. Good luck, because I don't see us winning back the election unless we solve people's problems.
I agree.
Like housing, food, healthcare.
First of all, before I get too far along, I failed to introduce one of our colleagues is in the back, State Senator Bill Tamora, who's in the back. Bill wave, so everyone sees you here. He's been driving me around today. We've been all over the place. Listen, I want to acknowledge that we have a lot of work to do as Democrats, and we can do a better job in many communities where we hold power. Our own backyard here in Columbus. I urge all of us, including my friends who are in local elected offices all across the state, in cities and counties, we need to step up and do a better job and address things, for example, like housing and where we control the levers of power to use that power to really address people's needs. Because I think you're right, like people, many people, whether or not they voted for Democrats in the past or not, they want to know that they have people in elected office and they have a government that is helping them and is responsive to them and is doing good. And we need to all do a better job. I would argue we're doing a hell of a lot better than the Republicans who are in charge. But we have more work to do as well. And I think what you saw in the election is that frustration. It's the frustration that things are not moving fast enough to help, and people are really suffering. It costs a lot of money to pay for your rent, to pay for your groceries, to pay for your utilities. I mean, it goes on and on and on, and people are suffering, and they get really frustrated when they have elected leaders, whether they're Democrat or Republican, who are not delivering those promises. So I agree with you. We can do better, and we need to do better, and we've got to respond to that challenge.
Hi, my name is Russ Goodwin. I'm a Westgate neighbor. I'm also the trifecta of what Doge and Trump are coming against. I'm a gay man, I'm a veteran, and I'm a senior citizen. So, I just got this from Mike Carey. It's a piece of crap. It's all lies. The man's a veteran, for God's sake. He was in the Navy. I was in the Navy. And I'm ashamed that he was one of my shipmates. So, I just want to say thank you for everybody being here. And let's go get him.
Jim, I want to address Russ. I think we honored Russ a few years ago in the Hall of Fame at the Stonewall Democrats. And again, thank you for your service, Russ. Congratulations on being in the Hall of Fame. Thanks for what you're doing for the West Side. It's just so insane because by coming in and putting someone in the Department of Defense, Pete Hegseth is so unqualified and has no understanding of what is necessary. And I woke this morning, getting my coffee, getting ready to go to Sydney, and I've got the Secretary of Defense saying we're going to declare war against China. Hey, let's give peace a chance. How about that? Okay? Let's give peace a chance in this war. Let's fund the diplomatic initiatives and the economic security that makes the balance that we need. We don't always lead with M, and boy, are they wrong. So I want to acknowledge those comments, but to say that if you meet the standard in the military, you can't serve if you believe a different way, or if you have a different identity than someone else. When we stand in formation, we always say, look to the left, look to the right. These are your battle buddies. We don't ask what bathroom you use. We don't ask where you go to church. We don't ask if you go to church. We just say, let's go get them. Let's solve the mission. So I'm so disappointed by our military leadership, and I'm really disappointed by Representative Carey, because in private moments, he always says the same thing. You know, it's just, I hate this, I hate this. Well, I got a solution. We're ready to take the job and do a better job than what you're doing. Thank you.
Well, first, my name is Ed Heller. I live in northern Franklin County, and I just had a couple of comments. Number one, if I lived about 4 miles further north, I would have a different representative. And you know who that is. The worst person in Congress, Jim Jordan. Oh, yeah, right. So I guess if you're worried, things can always get worse. And probably with the gerrymandering, it may get worse. I'm afraid of that. I might have to move. Anyway, I worked for the state of Ohio for over 40 years. The last 2 different agencies, and the last agency was Medicaid. And I saw firsthand what Medicaid does for the most needy people in Ohio. And to cut Medicaid is almost a crime. And we need to really get people in there that want to help people, not to help the millionaires and billionaires. And one last thing before I go. I'm looking around, and are there any people here under 30? If you're under 30, please stand up. Wishful thinking. Come on, yeah. All right. Well, you know, that's concerning because those people can vote. And they, if they would get off their ass and vote, they'll probably vote Democratic, I would think. So, as you're out talking to people, we need to really focus on younger people. So, thank you very much.
Just a quick comment about the, yes, ditto, everything you said about Medicaid, so critically important, most vulnerable, taking care of our most vulnerable. But earlier today, there was a 17-year-old young man, and I'm the mom of 2 teenage boys, one of whom just became eligible to vote. And so I ask this question a lot to young, new voters or potentially new voters, and I say, what do you care about the most? What is it that worries you the most? right now when you think about, electing people to office or politics. And I gotta tell you, they aren't impressed with any of us, first of all, including my own son. He's not impressed either. But the other thing that I hear from them is, I hate to say a hopelessness, it's really quite frightening, but sort of thinking, what does my future look like? I heard someone say here, because they're working 2 jobs. That is exactly what I hear from a lot of young people, feeling like this American dream is very out of reach for them because they worry, number one, will they be able to find a job? Will they be able to pay back student loans if they were lucky enough to go to college? Are they going to be able to afford the rent and a house for long-term security? Will they ever be able to have children? And so I think our challenge as Democrats and those of us who are in elected office is, we've got to speak to those issues and we have to address those concerns. By addressing things like housing, the cost of childcare, for example, the cost of college tuition. And I see Jane Leach back there. I know I'm singing her tune right now. But that's important. We have to go, and for all things, we have to go back to the basics and talk and speak to the real needs of people because we're just not going to be successful. We're not going to solve these problems if we aren't listening to people and really focused, laser focused on addressing those needs and concerns.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Hunley. I'm a Franklintonian, and like the Hilltop, we share about 30% of everything. So here I am. The obscenity that is called affordable housing. I don't know what the intersection is between city, county, state, whatever, but the bottom line is that people are being fooled, rooked, snookered by that term. It's an obscenity. What we have in Columbus coming is zone in. The apartments are typically the ones we've seen so far at 550 West Broad Street, built by Abby Wexner's nephew, is going to be 60 apartments. They're going to be about 800 square feet, like the size of a small house after World War II. They'll be at 80% of AMI, average median income. I wanted to know whose average median income they were considering. Well, they picked the average median income for Franklin County of it's $73,700 something, $74,000. In Franklinton, our AMI is $35,000. So at 80% of AMI, which is what they'll be reimbursed for, and some of these are federal programs, so that means they're federal, state, county, city programs, they'll be reimbursed at that 80 percentile. They're going to have 4 of those apartments per building to keep the riffraff out. Our folk in Franklinton, with 2 people working at, say, minimum wage, they're going to be at maybe $55,000, $60,000 if they're going to the food pantry, etc., right? So, 80% of 74,000 is a lot more money than what we're looking at. So all of this housing is being shoved down our throats in our single-family neighborhoods with no parking. And of course, there's justification in Linkus, which will be done in 2038, maybe. So here we are with this situation. We are being slammed with one kind of housing, no incentives for home ownership and neighborhood stability. My sister's a realtor clamoring for single-family homes to rent and or own. Our land bank is giving that stuff away, our lots away, to developers who are doing rentals only, and there's nothing for them to buy. In Franklinton, we have 300 open lots. Hilltop, you have a lot more. There are also well over 2,000 homes that are vacant at the moment. Some of them are investment properties that have been vacant for the last 5, 10, 15 years. And yet we don't see anything at the state and local government level to bring those back online to level out both the renters and the buyers market. So with that, thinking about what is affordable, what can be done so that the AMI is local to the place where the building is going to be. Talk about gentrification from Galloway to downtown with these apartments coming at that price tag, and that's a cheap price tag compared to some of them. Who's supposed to be living in them? Because it isn't us, it isn't our neighbors, it isn't our kids.
So, kind of, before I get into the housing issue, I do want to say, as the youngest person up here, I have more recently experienced trying to get into a house, and not only that, having to rent it through my entire time that I was in school. And I will say this, I'm not incredibly wealthy, but I'm also far more fortunate than I know a lot of people are in this district, okay? So I know that I have a little bit better shot. And it still is a pain. It's a disaster in order to just get a place to rent that's affordable, to try to buy a place. I will turn 37 years old, and I finally bought my first house when I was 36. That is not the American dream that we were all promised, okay? What we really need to, I believe that you're right. We do need to focus on local ability. What do the locals want in their area? But if you guys have read the book Abundance anytime soon, part of that issue as well is that at the local level, we faced a lot of stuff about like a NIMBY action or something like that, not in my backyard. We need to build affordable housing. And when we say affordable housing, maybe not all the time that means single family homes. Maybe the community wants that. But the community needs to play a more of an open role in it and not just say no, 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 no. But when you come to your town hall meetings, don't just say no to this new place that's being built. Provide proposals. Like, you guys have a voice. You guys are leaders. I didn't stand up there and tell you guys that you're leaders and just blow smoke up your ass. You guys are leaders. So if you want to see more single family homes, go to those places and be like, listen, I will sign off on this, but we want single family homes within these brackets. Say that stuff. Because I'll tell you what, the places that I show up to, those are not the arguments that I hear. What I hear is, no, I just don't want it. Okay, then let's have a conversation. You guys are just as powerful as anybody sitting up here. All you gotta do is use your voice.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Dyer. I live up the road. I was thinking maybe Marie Jo Kilroy could help address this. So I am not in my 30s. I'm 46. And I'm disillusioned. I've been a lifelong Democrat. I have some frustrations, and I'm not trying to turn this like hostile or anything, but I'm frustrated. I heard recently that the DNC is considering ousting David Hogg. And David Hogg has mobilized, he's a vice chair as I understand it, he has mobilized thousands, he's done great things. And he's the kind of person that just isn't gonna take it anymore. And they're trying to silence him. And I feel like that in itself is enough for me to withdraw in disgust and apathy and just say, I'm done. I'm done knocking on doors, I'm done making phone calls, I'm done writing letters. I don't feel like it's fair to put the work on us. Yes, we're all leaders, but at the same time, it's not fair to blame us, right? Like, why do we have to carry all the water? That came out wrong, but it's essentially, we're doing our part, and we're not getting enough action, and we're not getting enough response from the people who are in positions of power to make a difference. So what's your advice for someone like me who's just about at the end of my rope, and like, I want to be engaged, I want to help, but I can't do it if the DNC is going to oust somebody who is fighting for all the right causes, because he's younger, because he's speaking truth to power, because he doesn't accept campaign finance, donations. You were talking about money matters. Like, he's not corrupt, and we're trying to silence him, and I just don't get it, and it's really frustrating.
You're right.
I think David Hogg is a remarkable young leader, and he has certainly shown great courage in taking on the National Rifle Association, fighting for gun safety, which is, and gun violence is a huge epidemic in our nation, and it continues to be. And school shootings are just horrific, and it's just really hard for me to even come to grips how somebody can go into a school and shoot teachers, shoot students. That kind of carnage should be absolutely unacceptable. And Congress needs to do more than offer thoughts and prayers. There needs to be actual, real, serious action. There's no reason why, AK-47s and assault-type rifles are legal to buy. And, that you could be a 21-year-old and walk in and get a rifle like that, a weapon like that, a weapon of war. That's where they belong. Now, David Hogg and the DNC, I know, have had some difficulties with each other. I'm not really familiar with all the ins and outs of what led to their breakdown, but I think David Hogg and his efforts to mobilize young voters people asked about, he is there doing that. And he can do that whether he is on the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, or not. Now, the DNC is not the only Democratic organization either. There are different Democratic organizations at different levels. And of course, there's the DCCC, there's the DSCC, there's local Ohio organizations, the Ohio Democratic Party, to our local Franklin County parties. So, if the DNC is going to continue to be irrelevant to people like some of us, I think we can find our niche, we can find our place in the Democratic Party, and we can do really good, strong work to help bring the kind of change you want to see to America.
So I want to answer that because I met with the chair of the Brady PAC 2 weeks ago in DC. And he said, Rep. Miller, we like you because you got an F- from the Buckeye Firearms Association. We're going to support you. And there is room for a service member to talk about firearm safety and the things that Congressman Kilroy talked about, because we have worked with those types of dangerous ordinance. And on the floor of the House, Rep. Russo and I defeated one of the most obscene, it was called constitutional carry bills in the country. And we turn it around. So we are fighting in the trenches for kids and for firearm safety, and we're going to continue to do that.
Hi, my name is Angela.
Please give me 1 second. 1 second, I apologize.
It's okay.
Yeah, and listen, I appreciate all the work that you guys do with firearms. I honestly do not understand what the obsession is, and I come from a rural place, I don't understand. But the question is, where in the damn hell is the magic? I went to college when Barack Obama was running for office. That was magic. There's no more magic. That's what you're asking about, right? You're asking, where's the magic? You want to be inspired. We haven't had the guy that stood up there in 2004 anytime soon in our big body politic to say that a kid with a funny name could be one day in the White House. We have not had that person stand up and say that. Where's the magic? And as somebody that I feel the exact same way, where the hell is the magic? Because we had it bottled up, and now they've stolen our magic and they're using it against us. Think about it. Sarah Palin is essentially the type of zeitgeist that Donald Trump is running with, right? She was the one that told us, oh, how's that Hopi changey stuff doing? The Hopi changing stuff is with the shit that he's talking about right now. That's what we need back. And I'll tell you what, I'm with David Hall. Go to all out, the older people out, and it's time for millennials to be in office.
in here. You know, even if the DNC as an organization is not showing the kind of spark of leadership that we might want to see, there are people who are out there doing it. I would point to Bernie Sanders and AOC, who are out there holding town halls, inspiring young people, bringing more people into the tent, and offering a strong message of what Democrats can and should be doing. I also would look at Chris Murphy, Senator Chris Murphy, and Senator Chris Van Hollen, who are also out there talking to voters, having town halls, doing a great job. So even though it's not quote-unquote DNC, there are leaders doing it, and I applaud them for doing it, and I hope we see more of them, and I'd love to see them come to Ohio.
Hi, as I said before, I'm Angela, and I live here in Hilltop, have for a very long time, and I kind of want to build on what the previous gentleman spoke about, not just, you know, the where is the magic, although that really matters. And my thing is, every single day, we hear of some other shenanigans coming from this administration. Every single day, there's this new awful thing, and the courts have to weigh in, and then the courts say you can't do it, and he does it anyway. Yes. I want to know where the hell the accountability is. Yes. Who is holding these people accountable, and how can we make it stick, right? Because we hear things like Bernie Sanders and AOC, they're out there, they're making their voices heard, they're making sure that the rest of us know that someone's fighting for them. But honestly, that's about it. There are very, very few Democrats that I hear from on a regular basis who are saying, I'm out here fighting. It seems like everybody's gone quiet, everybody's hiding up in their little holes, and I do understand that we are currently on the wrong side of the scale, that we don't have as much power to confront this, but there doesn't seem to be a plan to get it. Otherwise, I mean, people are like, wait till 2026, wait till 2026. There are hints that there won't even be an election in 2026. And I don't want to wait and find out. I want to hear some assurances.
It's not the magic, it's the fight.
Yeah, it's
So there were 1,500 people in Dayton Thursday night for our town hall. Wow. Who were ready to fight. Right. And you know what I saw in that town hall that I haven't seen in about a really long time was white men. Yeah. Half of that audience in Dayton were white men, my age, mid-50s, saying, I'm tired of this. I've had enough, and what can we do? We had we filled Sinclair Community College auditorium on a Thursday night in a rainstorm. So there is fight. It's here. We wouldn't have had 125 people in Sydney this morning, or 100 people in a tent in Greene County this afternoon listening to a candidate for Secretary of State from 4 neighboring counties if there wasn't fight. There is fight, and we're fighting literally with both arms. Allison's got the most corrupt opponent in the State House we've ever seen. She doesn't even have input on who gets on committees. It's awful, but she's saying, I'm going to fight you every minute of the day. Thank you for that. So there is fight here, believe me.
I don't have anything else to add to that. I mean, listen, it is overwhelming. It is. I acknowledge it is overwhelming for all of you. And I'm going to go back to what you said. And you know, you're right. The Democrats are in the minority, and you know, but that shouldn't stop it. As someone who has sat in the super minority the entire time I've been at the State House, that should not stop you from pushing back and holding people accountable. But I'll tell you what pisses me off even more are the Republicans who have control. They're in the majority, like Mike Carey, for example, and they have no backbone. They have no backbone. They have no moral compass to fight back. People say all the time, like, how do you deal with the State House and all the crap that goes on there? And I said, you know what? It's the people who I know actually don't believe this garbage, and they still vote for it anyway. Those are the people who infuriate me the most, and we see that play out, and I think we see it, you know, with your member of Congress, Mike Carey, right now. And you know, as much as we want to hold Democrats accountable for the fight, and we should all be held accountable for that, we should also be holding the Republicans who do actually have power at their feet to the fire as well, and not give up on that piece also.
As the resident sort of young person on the panel, I've been wrestling with the cynicism thing, because I do feel the sort of rage and desperation in the crowd as, you know, terrible news story after terrible news story comes on, and so many Democrats seem asleep at the wheel, and so many Republicans seem like they're cackling maniacally. But what really strikes me, sitting up here, hearing from particularly former Representative Miller, hearing these people say in private moments, oh my God, this is so hard. Oh my God, it's so hard to deal with this man. What's hard is lying awake at night wondering what's going to happen if one of your parents breaks a hip, or one of your parents gets in a car accident because there's nobody to put your pants on in the morning. That's hard. And so I think when we see a party and a half that's this bathed in real politics and in cynicism, it's really important that we don't match their cynicism with our own. They're looking for ways to get us to not care about each other. The more that we give up on our promise to each other, the more that they feel empowered to give up on their promise to us and climb into Elon Musk's rocket and call it a day. So like, none of which is to say that we shouldn't hold Democrats accountable for things for times when they don't have a backbone. But we need to match their cynicism with action, with activism, because, you know, one thing about me is that I've never had the luxury of thinking of politics as primarily like this aesthetic thing. Like, politics is the difference between whether I can get up and out of bed in the morning or not. So when you're feeling at your lowest, remember that those are the stakes for a whole hell of a lot of people who don't have the support to be able to get up in front of you.
We're going to wrap things up. It's been an amazing, informative, and hopefully energizing event. I do want to point out one other person who's been very helpful to us, who's in the room. I know we have issues with the DNC, but the DNC has targeted 35 districts in the country as winnable this cycle. 3 of them are in Ohio. This is one of those 3. District 3 is one of those 3. We can do this. It's doable. And we had help from the Ohio Democratic Party. I want to recognize Tyler Studebaker in the back of the room. You probably got some emails from the OVP. He's got your contact information. You're going to hear more information from him about what you can do. I'm going to turn this over to Mary Minot right now. She's got great information. If you've got a pen, take it down. We'll get more info out to you. I want to add one more point to how desperate these crooks are in the United States Congress and how insensitive they are now, inhumane. You talked about guns a little while ago, and why can't we have reasonable gun control? In that big, beautiful bullshit bill, buried in there, at the request of some Alabama congressman, is the elimination of a fee to pay and a registration requirement for a silencer. That's a, what, provision by the assassin lobby? We need to do better, and this guy voted for that. Mary, take it away.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, everybody, so much for coming. This is amazing that people actually are showing up. I've been in the 15th district for a long time, but I know during Steve Stivers' time and during Mike Carey's time, there was never, ever any town hall. And they did not want to hear from us. So my friends and I had many times in front of Steve Stivers' offices, and we have had recurring little actions in front of Mike Carey's office. They do not want to talk to us. They have no incentive to talk to us. But we have to talk to them. So, a couple of little things you can do today. Definitely sign the SB1 petition if you haven't done that, and there are people in the back with those. Yes. And if you live in the city of Columbus too, we've had the Columbus Safety Collective petitions. We want your comments on those little cards, those postcards, so leave them with us and we will take them to Representative Carey. There is a poster back there that's going to be delivered to him as well. So if you sign that, he will know that a bunch of people showed up and he did not.
Right.
He did not show up. He just talked to us. He won't answer our phone calls. I know other people have gotten some little newsletters back from him, but I've gotten nothing. I take the persons I call, I take the person's name down, I tell them who I am, and I say I would like an answer on this question. Not a thing. So he does not represent us. He does not. And like other people have said, we can flip this district. We can do it. So the magic is in us. I'm almost 74 years old. I am not giving up. I will not give up. I worked for these people when they ran. Wonderful candidates. And we will get another candidate soon. But in the meantime, we've got local races, you've got city council, you've got school board, you've got people, and you've got your friends and neighbors. And the biggest thing I want you to do is listen to your friends and neighbors. Listen to them. But let them know what's going on, because a lot of people are in bubbles and they don't hear the truth. So we have to talk to each other. I listed a bunch of stuff on the back of this one paper that you can do. And I want to also thank tremendously Indivisible Central Ohio for helping us put this together. And the cards with the QR code are out on the table if you didn't get one of those, or if you don't get the newsletter, which comes out every week. We have protests. We are going to have a great big No Kings protest on the 14th. Please come. There's one in Grove City. I think there's one in Westerville. There's one in London, Ohio. Springfield, Indivisible. Lots of people are doing things, but we all need to work together. So we need to build community and encourage each other, because that's what it's all about. It's about us. We have the power, guys. We have the power. So let's use it. Let's not get discouraged. Let's not let fear and apathy overcome us, because we can do this. So thank you so much for coming, and thank our speakers for coming. And let's all stay active and let's do stuff. Thank you.